Popularly known as the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt Sr. truly was the man on the asphalt. He had no equal. With 76 career wins, he carved his legacy in gold. He was more than just a driver, he was a symbol. A symbol of grit, fearlessness, and talent. However, Dale Earnhardt passed away in a shocking turn of events. How did this symbol of asphalt royalty pass away, and what were the implications of his death? Join us as we uncover how Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s autopsy report revealed some sad details. The Darkest Nights, February 18, 2001, is to this day regarded as NASCAR's darkest day. It was the day that the sport lost one of its greatest and most respected drivers of all time, Dale Earnhardt. The seven-time NASCAR Cup champion, known as the Fearless Intimidator, passed away at the age of 49 after his famous Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet Monte Carlo crashed at Turn 4 on the last lap of the Daytona 500. His own team's cars, driven by good friend Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., finished 1 and 2 on a day that should have been filled with immense joy. He was playing rear gunner to his Dale Earnhardt Incorporated team cars as they raced around the final lap of the race, blocking any late runs from the chasing pack. As the cars tore through turns 3 and 4 on that fateful final lap, Earnhardt maintained the strong-arm tactics that had become the trademark of his persona. As he threw his final block, Earnhardt's left rear corner tagged Sterling Marlin's right front fender, getting his car loose. Earnhardt battled for control, his car clipping the apron, which unsettled it further. It began to spin clockwise, moving up the track and across the bows of the closely following Rusty Wallace and Ken Schrader. His right rear corner was struck by Schrader's left front, which emphasized the angle of Earnhardt's car before it nosed hard into the unprotected concrete. At first, it appeared to be just a regular NASCAR crash. However, the impact at this angle was devastating for the occupant. As his and Schrader's cars spun down the track in unison, Earnhardt's right rear wheel parted company. This was the first indicator of the violence that had shaken through the vehicle. Schrader, whose car hit the wall adjacent to Earnhardt's at much the same speed but at a far shallower angle, was completely unhurt. Medical crews were on the scene moments later, but despite their best efforts, there was little to be done but transfer Earnhardt to the ambulance and directly to the nearby Halifax Medical Center, where he was later pronounced dead. Earnhardt passed away as a result of a basilar skull ring fracture. 8 months prior to his accident, 3 other drivers had suffered the same injury and lost their lives: Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin, and Tony Roper. Johns Hopkins Medicine describes this injury as the most serious type of skull fracture and involves a break in the bone at the base of the skull. It often leads to major bleeding in that area. Other racing drivers to be killed by a similar injury included Roland Ratzenberger, Blaine Johnson, Blaze Alexander, and Gonzalo Rodriguez. In NASCAR's crash report published in August 2001, they stated that Dale Earnhardt's death was most likely caused by a blow to the back of the head, not from one single cause but from a combination of unusual factors. These included the uncommon severity and trajectory of the car's impact with the wall, an immediately prior collision with Schrader's car that put him out of position, and a separation of the left lap belt under load that allowed greater motion within the car. Earnhardt's left side lap belt had separated in the impact, allowing his body to twist forward and to the right inside the car. His autopsy revealed that the underside of his chin had impacted the steering wheel and that he had suffered a second blow to the back of his head as he rebounded from the impact back into his seat, which displayed scuff marks on the head surround area. Earnhardt's open-faced helmet had rotated forwards when he hit the wall, exposing the back of his skull. He shunned any head and neck safety restraint, unlike some of the drivers in the field that day. His death sent shockwaves to lovers of the sport all around the world. Their beloved Earnhardt was gone forever. As a driver, few could compete with him behind the wheel. However, how did he achieve his legendary status behind the wheel? Who was the man behind the wheel? The brightest dawn, Ralph Dale Earnhardt was born on April 29, 1951, in Kannapolis, North Carolina. His father, Ralph Earnhardt, was a successful race car driver and renowned mechanic. From a young age, Dale had cultivated a love for automobiles. His mother, Martha Earnhardt, also worked as a waitress and clerk at a children's store. Born into a family of 5, his siblings included Kay and Kathy, Randy, and Danny. In the 9th grade, he made the decision to drop out of school and went through several jobs while attempting to get his own stock car racing career off the ground. Despite his father not wanting him to follow in his footsteps as a race driver, he eventually had no choice but to support his son. But unfortunately, Ralph never saw his son race at the pinnacle of the sport and died of a heart attack in 1973 at the age of 45. 2 years later, in May 1975, Dale made his debut and finished 22nd in the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, kicking off an illustrious career behind the wheel. He eventually caught the attention of Rod Osterland, a racing sponsor based in California, and the driver was signed to his first full-time Winston Cup contract for the 1979 season. That year, he racked up his first win on the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, NASCAR, circuit at the Southeastern 500 in Bristol, Tennessee. By the end of the racing season, he had become the first driver to win over $200,000 in his rookie year. He was rewarded with NASCAR's prestigious Rookie of the Year honors. The next year proved to be even better for Earnhardt as he won his first NASCAR Season Points Championship, or Winston Cup Championship, barely edging out the veteran driver Cale Yarborough to do so. With the win, he became the first driver to win Rookie of the Year and the Points Championship in back-to-back seasons. Not long after, Osterland sold his team to J.D. Stacy in 1981. Earnhardt signed on to race for driver-turned-owner Richard Childress. He spent the next 2 years with Bud Moore's team, but he reunited with Childress after the 1983 season, and his career took off. After winning 4 races in 1985, he recorded 5 wins and a second Winston Cup championship in 1986. The next year saw him secure his best results yet, as he won 11 races and a third championship, finishing in the top 5 in 21 out of 29 races. Despite his undeniable success, he quickly earned himself a reputation early on for recklessness. Nicknamed Ironhead and the Intimidator, he was prone to aggressively bumping other drivers out of the way in order to take the lead in a particularly close race. After a warning from the president of NASCAR in 1987, he cleaned up his act and began developing better relationships with other drivers on the circuit. His success on the track continued as he won his 4th Winston Cup championship in 1990, earning a then-record $3 million in winnings. In 1991, he took home yet another title. The streak was broken in 1992 when he finished a disappointing 12th in the standings. However, he was not one to be put down by losses, so he bounced back the following year to win a 6th championship with a win at the AC Delco 500 in his home state of North Carolina. In 1994, he secured his 7th Winston Cup championship, tying the legendary Richard Petty for most career titles. For the 3rd time in 5 years, he topped the $3 million mark in earnings and had become the indisputable king of stock car racing. The records kept falling for Earnhardt throughout the 90s. Although he failed to win another points championship, in 1996 he became the 3rd driver to start 500 consecutive Winston Cup races. The following year, he broke the $30 million mark in career earnings, the most ever for a race car driver. The only major victory that had eluded Earnhardt up until that point was the crown jewel of stock car racing, the Daytona 500, held in Daytona, Florida. Although he had come close several times, his bid for victory was often derailed by mechanical failure, crashes, or some other bad luck. Earnhardt also survived a harrowing crash at the event in 1997, only to return in fine form in February 1998, when he won his first Daytona in 20 career starts, breaking a winless streak of 59 straight races. He finished 8th in points that season with no more wins and went on to place 7th in 1999 with 3 race victories. Earnhardt left behind a robust legacy in the sport, one that might never be matched again. However, his biggest legacy might be the one brought about by his death, changing the landscape of NASCAR forever. How did he do that in death? A hero's legacy. The quiet after a bad NASCAR wreck is unnerving, terrifying even if it lasts too long. The roar of the engines faded as cars rolled to a stop. Officials in the scoring tower, spotters on the roof, and writers in the press box watched the damaged car, hoping, praying that the driver's side window net comes down. In living rooms across America, fans lean toward the TV, eyes glued to the net too. The world goes silent, or seems to at least. As Austin Dillon's car flew down the front stretch in 2015 at Daytona in one of the most frightening wrecks in NASCAR history, all he could hear were his own thoughts telling himself that he was okay. The fact he was indeed fine was nothing short of stunning, considering his car flew over 2 lanes of traffic, slammed into the catch fence, and came to a stop on its hood. It was so terrifying that crew members from other teams ran out to the car to see if he was okay. Auto Week put a photo of his ripped-to-pieces car on the cover with the headline, "How did Austin Dillon survive this?" The same question came up after Ryan Newman's horrific wreck at the end of the Daytona 500. One reason they both survived was that over 2 decades ago, Dale Earnhardt didn't. Today, Steve O'Donnell is NASCAR's executive president. In 2001, he worked in NASCAR's marketing department. He was in victory lane after the Daytona 500 that year, as Michael Waltrip celebrated the first Cup Series win of his career. As confetti flitted onto crewmen's shoulders and champagne soaked their hair, O'Donnell saw driver Kenny Schrader come into victory lane. Schrader, a talkative man with dancing eyes and a quick wit, looked stricken. He had been involved in a last-lap wreck with Dale Earnhardt. After Schrader's car stopped, he climbed out, walked over to Earnhardt's car, looked in the driver's side window, and immediately waved for help. It would be years before he said so publicly, but he knew right away what the world would learn in a few hours. Earnhardt, the 7-time champion, was dead. Earnhardt's death was the 4th in less than a year across NASCAR's 3 national series. In 2000, Tony Roper, Adam Petty, and Kenny Irwin all died of the same injury as Earnhardt, basilar skull fractures. Because Earnhardt was a 7-time NASCAR champion and icon in and out of the sport, his death prompted a massive safety revolution that now permeates every corner of the sport. According to Kevin Harvick, the 2014 champion who replaced Earnhardt at Richard Childress Racing and now drives for Stewart-Haas Racing, the impact that he had after his death on the safety of the sport has been something that's just far greater than would have happened with anybody else. The safety revolution started immediately and, over 2 decades later, it still hasn't stopped. Andy Petrie, now the VP of competition at Richard Childress Racing, who in 2001 owned a 2-car race team, said his cars became 75% safer. The very next day after Dale Earnhardt's death, changes were made to the seats, headrests, and belts at Rockingham. In the weeks that followed, and for years to come, safety became a hotly debated topic. Questions emerged: what should be done, how should it be done, and when should it be done? Before Earnhardt's death, many within the sport were hesitant to seek or accept outside advice on safety. But everything changed afterward. NASCAR began collaborating with a range of organizations to address safety issues. Richard Childress remarked that this approach, bringing in external opinions and fresh perspectives, was the right thing to do. While he admitted that the pain of losing Earnhardt would never fade, he believed much good came out of the tragedy in terms of safety. In 2002, NASCAR opened its Research and Development Center in suburban Charlotte. The work done there led the industry through an era of unprecedented change, both in scope and effectiveness. Remarkably, in the 2 decades since Earnhardt's passing, no one has died in one of NASCAR's top 3 series, Cup, Xfinity, or Camping World trucks. That's the legacy Dale leaves, said Petrie, a former Earnhardt crew chief, friend, and business partner. The changes kept coming. In 2002, tracks began replacing concrete walls with energy-absorbing safer, steel and foam energy reduction barriers. This was completed at all oval tracks by 2005, marking one of the most important developments in racing safety besides the Hans device. In 2003, NASCAR implemented the free pass rule, which froze the field the moment a caution flag waved, eliminating the previous practice of racing back to the start-finish line. The first driver a lap down would now receive their lap back automatically. By 2007, NASCAR mandated that drivers use a 6-point harness system. This innovation effectively ended the once common sternum injuries. Today, NASCAR requires at least a 7-point system and recommends a 9-point system, with each belt designed to protect the driver from specific types of crashes. That same year, the driver's seat was shifted toward the center of the car, and energy-absorbing materials were added to the driver's side door panel. Racing has always carried an element of danger, and once, to express fear was seen as a lack of courage. But over the past 2 decades, that mindset has shifted dramatically. Danger is still part of racing's allure, but now, no one mocks efforts to make the sport safer. Cultural changes around safety and the technical innovations happened in tandem, though not always at the same pace. Safety often came first, with the cultural shift following. Take, for example, the initial resistance to the Hans device. Some drivers disliked wearing it or doubted its effectiveness, or both. Now, it's unthinkable to step into a car without one. The free pass rule faced early criticism as well, with some calling it hokey or unauthentic. But today, the idea that any sanctioning body would allow racing under a yellow flag seems dangerously outdated. The culture around safety has transformed the sport. Drivers and executives now openly discuss fear, danger, and safety in ways they never would have before. Where once innovation led and culture followed, now the culture of safety drives ongoing innovation. NASCAR continues to explore new frontiers in safety. The organization has tested the use of load sensors and seatbelts to gather real-time crash data, though practical challenges, like sensor weight, limit in-race use. In partnership with Wake Forest University, NASCAR has piloted the use of mouthpieces embedded with sensors, allowing data collection directly from within the driver's body. This level of information was previously unimaginable. With better data, Cadillac and his team have gained a deeper understanding of what happens during a crash, which empowers them to develop more effective safety features. Cadillac notes that computer modeling has been a game changer, offering insights that were once out of reach. And the more they explore, the clearer it becomes. When it comes to safety, there is no finish line. New data, new technology, and new materials are always emerging. As Steve O'Donnell said, even when you think you've done all you can, you are not even close. Dale Earnhardt, known as the Intimidator, lived his life without fear and made the racetrack his domain. He died doing what he loved. His legacy, both as a legendary driver and through the safety revolution sparked by his death, is etched permanently into the history of motorsports, a legacy written in gold. What do you think about the tragic circumstances of Dale Earnhardt's death, and what impact do you believe he had on the sport that claimed his life? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Click the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.